put on your homework sheet.
Hey everyone, it's Jessica. So I like to share all these cool clips of London, but honestly, the majority of the time, I'd say Monday through at least half of Friday, my time just looks like this. That's not a bad thing though. I think that's for most people. It's starting to get dark out and I'm finished with tutoring for a while, so I can't think of a better time than to talk about one of the best things we've done so far, and that was to take a tour in what used to be a very scary, very scandalous and dark part of London. This part of London was famous for the serial killer Jack the Ripper. I'm going to share a little bit about the tour with you, and as some of you know, we are actually staying in a renovated mental asylum, and before we start getting worried about ghosts and such, this place was actually very cutting edge for its time. This blue plaque here actually indicates the history of the place. A lot of these buildings are renovated into really nice units. The rest of the units are used for the nearby hospital facility. So let's talk about Jack the Ripper, because serial killers seem to have this allure. I should know how to say that word, but that was always a weird one for me. I know, an English teacher should know. Anyway, Jack the Ripper, that's a pseudonym. Nobody actually found and convicted the killer. So back in 1888, there was this part of London, as I said, that was dangerous. It was dark, there were no lamps, there was a lot of crime. A lot of people who were down and out would rent cheap rooms on a night-by-night basis, and well, you can imagine what that might have been like. This tour sparked my interest not because of the serial killer, but actually because of the book I read about the 5 victims. So this book called The 5, written by Hallie Rubenhold. I highly recommend it, by the way, but for probably ages maybe 16 and up, just because it talks about women who were murdered and, mature content. It doesn't go into like grisly detail or anything, but the 5 women who were allegedly killed by this guy that we now call Jack the Ripper, Polly, Annie, Elizabeth, Kate, and Mary Jane. I loved learning all about them because when they were so sadly killed back in 1888 by this awful killer, they were sort of written off as unimportant prostitutes. Because of their appearance and because of their economic status, the police didn't do too much investigation into their background. They just saw them as, oh, too bad, they're victims, they're poor women, they're the working class. They probably had a bad night and made a guy angry, and they found themselves isolated and alone, so on and so forth. While reading the book, I also learned that with the exception of one of the women, the others actually had no evidence of prostitution at all. So it was just a lot of rumor. I was just amazed to learn that none of the actual women... Anyway, my battery died, so I had to replace that. But what happened with the women was that all 5 of them were actually from other places. I really appreciate how the author went into great detail, like almost too much detail about where the women came from, what jobs they used to have before they ended up down and out in Whitechapel. Also, who they were married to. They had children. A lot of them had been mothers, and one of them was actually from Sweden. Just imagine dark, cold, damp London nights with no heat, no quality bedding, and you've been abandoned by your family. Or you've abandoned them for whatever reason. That's who most of the women ended up being. And it's sad because all of them succumbed to alcohol addiction, because alcohol was just a fast, easy, and cheap way to, I guess, just get by and endure the harsh winters and the lonely summers living in that part of town. It's another reminder of the class distinctions back then. There were parts of London with beautiful housing and, where all the lovely people lived. And then not too far away were areas that you didn't want to be. You might wonder, how in the world could these murders take place if it appears to be right in the center of town? London has a high population. It certainly did back then too. Perhaps this doesn't surprise you, but all the murders took place under the cover of darkness. And I think we really take for granted modern day lighting. We've got street lamps, we've got lights on our phones. We always have a way to, at least most parts of town, no matter what city you're in, you can see to get around. It gets dark here early. You may have seen in my other videos. When it gets dark, it's hard to get around. So that's probably how the guy got away with these murders, because there really weren't witnesses. There was just not enough proof, especially back in 1888 when you don't have the forensics that we do now. It was just harder to prove things. I highly recommend reading a book for those of you who love reading, or at least watch a movie about some part of history and then try to go and take a tour about that topic. And I mean, I'm telling you, I was glued to the stories the whole time. The women weren't heroic just because they were killed by a serial killer, but you grow to empathize with them, and you learn so much about what life was like, and makes you appreciate things today, at least most things.
They're murdered, including our second victim. So our second victim is a woman called Annie Chapman. I'll show you here. Annie Chapman, so similar. Her life story is so similar to that of Polly Nick.
Oh, see, what I tell you, it's already dark. So I'll try to link this book below in the video description box so that you guys can take a look at it. Definitely recommend it, particularly to adults. But like I said, I think it's appropriate for really probably ages 16 or even older than that, just 18 and up. Okay. If you love history, if you love hearing about old Victorian London, if you want to hear about at least how the victims do get some justice simply because a lady decided to give them more dignity, just doing the research and figuring out where they came from based off of their backgrounds and whoever they married and all of that, it is a comfort to know that even though the women are gone, somebody else can at least tell part of their story. As I wrap this up, I also want to remind some of you guys that I am an online tutor. I teach English, well, my husband and I teach English and math to students ages 11 and up. So right now it's tutoring season. Definitely contact us if your student is preparing for exams, if they're preparing for SAT, ACT, or if you just need a new homeschool tutor for the Michael Clay Thompson homeschooling curriculum. Contact us at PEZ Tutoring. All of our information is down below. And if you are an online tutor, I have a free Facebook group for you guys. That I created this group because so many of us are dealing with lesson plans, business plans, online content that we create through Canva, and it can just get really wild and out of control. And if you don't have people to help stay organized and help stay just on the edge of new things, you feel really behind. And so we focus on new topics really on a month-by-month basis. This month we've been talking about how to use online platforms like Tutorbird to keep you organized, and we're also going to be starting to talk about Google Drive and all the wonders of that. All right guys, don't forget to follow me on Instagram for updates, and of course if you haven't subscribed yet and you like this type of tutoring lifestyle content, definitely subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.